Pearl. It is said that there was a rich man named Liaozhai in Changzhou, Jiangsu province. He had a lot of land, but he had no sons in his 50s. He only had a daughter named Xiao Hui, who was as beautiful as a flower. The old couple loved her very much. Unexpectedly, Xiao Hui died of a sudden illness when she was only 14 years old, and her home became even more empty and deserted. Li Hua took the maid as his concubine and gave birth to a son more than a year later. Li Hua treated her like a pearl in his palm and named him Shuer. Pearl gradually grew up and became strong, handsome, and talented. However, he was born with dementia. At the age of 5 or 6, he still couldn't distinguish between grains, and his speech was stammering and unclear. Even so, Li Hua didn't mind, but loved him even more. One year, a blind monk came to the city to beg alms. He could detect the privacy of other people's boudoirs, so people were surprised and thought he was a god. The monk also threatened to bring life, death, misfortune and blessings to people. When he begged for alms, he asked people by name for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, and no one dared to disobey. One day, the monk asked Li Hua for 100 strings of money. Li Hua was in a dilemma. He gave him 10 strings, but the monk thought it was too little. Li Hua gradually increased the number to 30 strings, and the monk said sternly, "You must give me 100 strings, even if you miss a penny." Li Hua was also very angry. "Collect the money and leave," the monk said angrily. "Don't regret it. Don't regret it." After a while, Pearl suddenly felt a sharp pain in her heart. She rolled around on the bed, holding onto her feet. Her face turned to dust. Li Hua was frightened and hurriedly brought 80 strings of money to the monk to beg him to save Zhuer's life. The monk sneered and said, "It's not easy for you to come up with so much money. What can I, a blind monk, do?" Li Hua was helpless. When he returned home, he found that Zhuer was dead. Li Hua was very sad and wrote a complaint to the county magistrate. The county sent people to arrest the monk for interrogation. The monk tried his best to deny the sophistry, so the county magistrate ordered the yeoman to beat him like a drum. He also ordered people to search him, and found 2 wooden figures, a small coffin, and 5 small flags from his body. The magistrate was furious and showed the monk's evidence. The monk was frightened and kowtowed repeatedly to beg for mercy. The magistrate refused to listen and ordered his men to beat him to death with sticks. Li Hua knelt down to thank the county magistrate and returned home. When Li Hua arrived home, it was dusk and he was sitting on the bed talking with his wife. Suddenly a child hurriedly walked into the house and said to him, "Oh Wang, why are you walking so fast? I can't catch up even if I try hard to catch up." Looking closely at his appearance, he is about 7 or 8 years old. Li Hua was startled, and just as he was about to ask him, he saw the child looming like smoke, and in the blink of an eye he had climbed onto the bed. Li Hua quickly pushed him off the bed, and there was no sound at all when he landed. The child said, "Oh Wang, what are you doing?" In a blink of an eye, he climbed onto the bed again. Li Hua was very scared, so he took his wife and ran outside. The child followed closely behind them, shouting "a wing" and "grandma" constantly. Li Hua ran to his concubine's house and hurriedly closed the door. When I looked back, the child was already standing in front of me. Li Hua tremblingly asked the child what he wanted to do, and the child replied, "I am from Suzhou, and my surname is An. My parents died when I was 6 years old. My brother and sister-in-law couldn't tolerate me, so they kicked me to live with my grandmother's house. Once I was playing outside the door and I was killed. The monk charmed me with magic and took me under a mulberry tree and killed me. Later, he forced me to serve him. From then on, I was wronged and could not be reincarnated. Fortunately, a wing vindicated me, and I am willing to be your son." Li Hua said, "Humans and ghosts are not the same people. How can they live together?" The child said, "As long as you give me a small room, put a bed and bedding on it, and pour a bowl of cold porridge every day, everything else will be fine." Li Hua agreed to his request. The child was very happy and settled in the house alone. After getting up in the morning, he goes in and out of each house, just like Li Hua's biological son. One day, the child heard Li Hua's concubine crying for her child, and asked, How many days has it been since Jur died? The answer was 7 days. The child said, the weather is cold, so the corpse should not rot. Send someone to open the grave and take a look. If there is no damage, I can use the corpse to resurrect the soul and live again. Li Hua was very happy after hearing this and took the child to Zhuer's gravesite. The grave was dug and the coffin was opened to see that the body was in good condition. When Li Hua was feeling sad, he looked back and saw that the child was gone. Li Hua felt very strange and asked people to carry Zhuer's body back. After arriving home, as soon as I put Pearl's body on the bed, I saw that Pearl's eyes could move. After a while, she called for water. After drinking the water, she broke out in a sweat. After sweating, she stood up. The whole family is happy for Pearl's resurrection. In addition, he has become very smart, which is very different from before. But at night, Pearl lay straight on the bed again, breathless. When he turned his body over, his eyes were closed and he looked like a dead person. Everyone was shocked and thought he was dead again. It was almost dawn when Pearl woke up as if from a dream. Everyone asked him what was going on, and he replied, when I followed the demon monk, there were 2 of us, and the one was called brother. Yesterday I chased my father, but failed to catch up because I was saying goodbye to brother at the back. He now in the underworld. I feel comfortable and happy as the adopted son of Mr. Zhang. He invited me to play last night, and he just sent me back with a white-nosed yellow horse. Mother Li asked, have you seen Pearl in the underworld? She replied, Jur has been reincarnated. He has no father-son relationship with a wing. He just came to collect a debt of hundreds of coins for Yan Zifang of Jinling. At first, Li Hua went to Jinling to do business and owed Yan Zifang a debt before repaying it. Yan died, and no one knew about it. Li Hua was shocked after hearing this. Mother Li asked, my child, have you seen your sister Hui? She replied, I don't know. I will definitely ask about it when I go again. 2 or 3 days later, the child said to Mother Li, Sister Hui is very good in the underworld. She is married to the young master of the king of Chuzhang. She is dressed in pearls and green hair. As soon as she goes out, there are hundreds of people cheering and cheering her. Mother Li said, why don't you come back to your parents' home to have a look? She replied, once a person dies, he has nothing to do with his parents when he was alive. Only if someone tells the story of his life in detail can she suddenly remember. Yesterday, I asked Member Zhang to introduce me to Sister Hui. Sister asked me to sit on her coral bed. I told her what my parents missed, but she seemed to be asleep. I added, when Sister is alive, likes to embroider silk flowers. She pricked her hand with scissors and blood dripped on the silk ribbon. So my sister embroidered it into red clouds. My mother still hangs it on the wall beside the bed. When I see that silk ribbon, I miss you. Sister, have you forgotten? At this point, my sister remembered what happened during her lifetime and said miserably, when I see my husband, I will definitely tell him that I want to go home to visit my mother. Mother Li asked when she would come and replied, have no idea. One day, the child said to Li's mother, Sister is coming soon. There are many followers, so we need to prepare more food and wine. After a while, he ran back into the house and said, Sister is here. He moved the chair to the main room and said, Sister, sit down and rest for a while. Don't be too sad, but others can't see anything. The child led his family to burn paper and offer wine outside the door, and then came back and said, the carriages and horses have gone back temporarily. My sister said, the green cotton quilt I used to cover had a hole the size of a bean burned by a candle. It's still there, Li's mother replied. Yes. He opened the box and found it. The child said, my sister asked me to put it in the boudoir where she used to live. She is tired now and wants to take a rest. She will talk to her mother tomorrow. The daughter of the Zhao family who lives next door to the east is a good friend who had embroidered with Xiao Hua before. That night, I suddenly dreamed that Xiao Hui came to see her wearing a headscarf and a purple shawl. Her voice and smile were the same as before. He said to Zhao Nu, I am no longer in the world, and meeting my parents is no less than meeting in the mountains and rivers. I want to use your body to talk to my family. Don't be afraid. At dawn, Daughter Zhao was talking to her mother when she suddenly fell to the ground and fainted. After a while, I slowly woke up. He said to Mother Zhao, Xiao Hui and Aunt have only been separated for a few years. And you are already covered with white hair? Mother Zhao was horrified and asked, Are you crazy? Her daughter said goodbye to Mother Zhao and walked out. Zhao's mother guessed that there was another reason, so she followed her. After walking into Li's house, Mrs. Zhao hugged Mrs. Li and cried when she entered the room. Mother Li was panicked and didn't know why, and V. Zhao said, I came back yesterday and was very tired. I didn't bother to talk to my mother. My daughter was infilial and abandoned her to elders on the way, leaving you to miss each other. How can I atone for my sin? Mother Li immediately understood and cried bitterly. Then she asked, I heard that my child is now enjoying glory and wealth, and I am very happy. But you are from the prince's family. How can you come? Zhao Nu said, My husband and I have a very good relationship, and my parents-in-law also love me very much. They don't think I'm ugly. When Xiao Hui was alive, she used to hold her chin with her hands. Miss Zhao made this gesture while talking, and her expressions and movements were exactly like the way Xiao Hui looked before she was alive. Not long after, Zhua ran in and said, The people to pick up my sister are here. Zhao Nu got up and said goodbye to Mother Li, crying, The baby is gone. After saying that, he fell to the ground and passed out. After a while, Ms. Zhao regained consciousness. A few months later, Li Hua fell ill, and his condition worsened day by day. Even seeking medical treatment and taking medicines were ineffective. The child said, It seems that it is a matter of time. I'm afraid there is no hope. The ghosts were sitting on the bedside, one holding an iron rod and the other holding a 4 or 5 foot long hemp rope. I begged them day and night. They won't leave either. Li's mother cried and prepared a shroud for Li Hua. At dusk, the child ran in and said, Everyone in the house and women should stay away for a while. My brother-in-law is here to visit a wing. After a while, the child clapped his hands and laughed. Mother Li asked him why he was laughing, and he said, I laughed at those two brats. When I heard that my brother-in-law was coming, I was so scared that I hid under the bed like a turtle. Not long after, I saw the child saying hello to the air and saying hello to his sister. Then he clapped his hands and said with a smile, I begged the two ghosts to leave, but they refused to leave. Now I am so happy. After saying that, he walked out of the door, turned back and said, Brother-in-law is gone, and the two ghosts are locked with a leather belt around the horse's neck. They took him away. My father's illness will be cured soon. My brother-in-law said, when he gets back, he will ask the king to pray for 100 years for his parents. The whole family was happy. During the night, Li Hua's condition really improved, and he recovered within a few days. After Li Hua recovered from his illness, he hired a teacher to teach his children how to read. He is very smart. He was admitted to the county school at the age of 18, and he can also talk about things in the underworld. When they see sick people among the villagers, they can point out where the ghost is causing harm. When roasted over fire, the patient often recovers. Later, he suddenly fell ill and his skin turned purple. He said to himself, because of ghosts and monsters, he revealed the secret as punishment. From then on, he never talked about the underworld again.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.